a coherent and comprehensive manner, because there is a lot of work which has been done on the partial relationships. And let me submit to you that in designing foreign economic policy, we should always keep in mind that such a policy would be a byproduct of the country's larger foreign and domestic economic policy. You cannot have an isolation between the foreign economic policies and your domestic economic policies or foreign policy at large. In the domain of the foreign policy, with due apologies to my friends from the Foreign Service, ambiguity, diplomatic language, vaccines and sensitivities make a lot and reveal very little. But foreign economic policy must be more direct, focused, target-oriented, and it has to meet scope. So in the present world, where globalization, technology, demographics, and demand patterns are important drivers of any country's economic policy, we have to reset our present policies in relations to the other countries. We are, at the same time today, we are threatened and have a serious risk because of the climate change, which has already hit us badly. We are also being affected by the changes in the geopolitical power balance, and we are also threatened by the protectionist and pro-nationalist policies which are pursued by many countries in the Western world. So keeping this balance between the positive elements and the negative elements, I would like to submit that what are the primary objectives under these circumstances for Pakistan. And then I would like to present to you for your consideration the instruments which should be used in order to achieve these objectives. In my opinion, this primary objective is to maximize the opportunities offered by globalization and financial integration for the benefit of the majority of Pakistanis and to manage the threats to the Pakistani economy. My calculations show that the country can double its per capita income and reduce poverty significantly within the next 10 to 12 years if this goal is met. Desperate countries such as Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam were able to demonstrate that international trade and foreign direct investment can bring about a miraculous change in the living standards of hundreds of millions of impoverished people. Poverty levels in East Asia are now among the lowest in the world. The success of East Asia was a combination of a smart government and a dynamic private sector working together. And that is essential ingredient for any economic policy, domestic or foreign. China, as you all know, and I don't have to repeat, did even better than these industrialized countries. And it has raised the per capita incomes of 1.2 billion peoples and dropped poverty from 50% to 10% because of this integration with the global market. Another country, our neighbor, which crosses 1 billion mark population with a security and massive democracy, has delivered an annual growth rate of 6% per annum for the last 15 years and reduced the poverty levels to 23% despite very many multifarious problems. And this period from 1991 has been marked by opening of India, liberalization of trade and foreign investment. So this is where our comparators are. So what are the instruments which will enable Pakistan in its relationships with the foreign partners to achieve the kind of growth path which I have outlined for you? Number one is trade. We have to increase the share of Pakistan in the world exports of merchandise goods and promote regional trade. Second, we have to initiate participation in the export of services, particularly ICT and professional services. This is now growing much faster than the export of goods in the global markets. Act as a transit route for cross-border flows of goods, infrastructure, and services between Central Asian republics and South Asian republics and Afghanistan. And take part in the global supply chain by providing component parts rather than have vertical end-to-end integration. The next is investment. We have to attract foreign direct investment, particularly for exports and manufacturing. So far, the foreign direct investment has come in for domestic markets, while we have to pay them in dollars for repatriation of profits and royalties, and this is creating an imbalance in our balance of payments. So we have to attract them, targeted at our exports and manufacturing. Secondly, we have to encourage the Pakistani companies to place equities abroad and acquire contracts and companies overseas. And India has done a marvelous job in doing so. And you can see the Tata, Jaguar, Rover, Mitchell, Steel, Arcelor, and I can go on giving you examples, but these are achievements they have. And then third, that they have to set up joint venture companies with the multinational companies from all over the world, not only in the CPAC, but in the special economic zones. We are open for all multinational companies. Under the heading of technology, we have to promote transfer of technology to Pakistani companies to increase our productivity, which is at below the par as compared to our competitors, and facilitate Pakistani companies in acquiring international presence. Under the labor and manpower, we have to train and supply the type of workers which are required by the labor-efficient countries and maximize workers' remittances. And the example which I quote very frequently is that for the first time Japan has opened up its doors to the foreign migrants, but they need a special kind of migrant, which is on the IT and professionals. They don't need the unskilled labor, and they have offered Pakistan to be a part of this movement. So we have to train our own people in order to meet the demand of Japan, and Qatar has also asked in other countries which are really very much interested in utilizing Pakistan's labor force. And we have a youthful, what I call as a youth bulge, which we can bring as a visitor to the country. So these are the 10 instruments. And so what I want to do, I won't cover the entire waterfront because that will become too long a discourse. But just for provoking some discussion with this very impressive gathering of unity, I have tried to limit myself to 5 bilateral relationships. One with the United States, one with the Gulf States, with South Asia, and Afghanistan. And my submission is that having worked on Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Azerbaijan, I can say that we can do a lot for these countries, especially for all Central Asian countries, just to modernize our relations with Afghanistan, transit through which the Pakistani goods, Asian goods can be very freely. So that is the condition, that's why I included Central Asia. And with Iran, I have not really taken it up because of the sanctions imposed by the Western countries. But if you can see, my model is that of the economic empirical evidence, which is that neighborhood and the regional trade is the major driver of a country's comparative advantage. And that's why, except China is also our neighbor, because of the link with the Western China. But the United States is our biggest partner, so the United States is distinct. But these are the relationships. And I want to use each instrument tailor-made for relationship with each one of them. So it's not, one shoe fits all, but I carefully tailor what each country can do for Pakistan in order to meet these particular objectives. So each instrument is tailor-made. For the United States, I'm glad that we are no longer a recipient of the large economic assistance, because that has created bad blood both in the United States for Pakistan and Pakistan for the United States. So I'm happy that after Kerry Lugar, we don't have any significant inflow of assistance from the United States. And I'm also very happy that Biden administration has recently decided to move its focus away from security, FPA, India-Pakistan hyphenation, to trade, investment, and technology transfer. And this is a highly desirable shift to, provided this strategy is executed with full force, because past attempts have been unsuccessful. I went around in 2005 as the Governor State Bank, met the U.S. Trade, State Department, and White House officials, and also addressed the think tanks for giving concession to Pakistan on the tariffs. We are not asking for concessions. We wanted to level playing field for the simple reason that textiles in Pakistan are charged 10% tariff duty, while other competitors of ours are either zero duty or 2.5% duty. So all we ask for them is to bring us to the level playing field. But because of the lobbies of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, which are the textile producers in the U.S., the senators were not able to do that. And the U.S. Chamber of Commerce has been agitating this issue for the last 15 years. So I hope that the Biden administration will be able to persuade the Congress to provide us this reduction in the tariffs, which will accelerate our exports to the United States markets. And we have a niche in that market because the low end is not produced by the U.S. U.S. is not competitive at all. So we can complement for the consumers who will benefit from it. And China is no longer in that market because China's got now very high labor wages. So this is something number one. Number two is, whatever you may say, the United States still has the wherewithal for foreign direct investment through its companies. And we need that in energy, not in generation, but transmission and distribution. We need for gas pipelines. We need that for oil terminals, LNG terminals, for refining capacity, for petrochemical complex, among others. And there are U.S. investors through Exim Bank who are prepared to invest in Pakistan and with guarantees from OPEC